American football in Finland.
Okay, so I'm here with DC Divas defensive back, first team All American of the Women's Football Alliance, Nana Olavuo. I might have butchered your
So
name. I'm so sorry.
I'm gonna use it.
How do you pronounce it? How do you pronounce it? Tell me how to pronounce it correctly.
Olavuo. Yeah, it's a
Olavuo.
little it's a little
Olavuo.
difficult. Yeah, that's
Olavuo.
okay.
So it's like an
Yeah.
R instead of an O at the end. Okay.
N- no, but to Americans, yeah, that's probably the easiest way to
I've
try
also
to make
but
it.
I've also butchered your brother's name trying to say his name a couple of times. So
Yeah,
at least it's not
it
just
happens.
one. There's multiple
Uh-uh.
players out there. But
Right.
yeah, so Nana, we're gonna do the interview kind of like let's imagine that the people listening don't know how famous you are and all the great things you've done. So we'll kind of go from that standpoint and we'll just pretend that you're like just a normal person who just happens to be doing extraordinary things. So the first question I wanted to ask, just getting straight into it, was how did you end up with the DC Divas in the States? How did that process go about joining that team?
I actually talked to the manager back in 2019 the first time, and we were trying to get me here for 2019 season, but there was like a lot of issues with like figuring out the visa stuff and like financial stuff and whatever. So I ended up going to Sweden that year, but we kind of kept in contact a little bit. And then now, while I was in Spain, my best friend also had come here. She didn't play, but she was supposed to play 2020. So we just both got back in contact. We just figured we wanted to, play football again together after Spain. So we started talking to the manager again and head coaches, and we just did like a few meetings and signed contracts.
There you go. Great players make big moves. And you were speaking about Spain, and actually brings me to the next question. You've played in different countries. Obviously, you played national team games. You played women and men's. You've
Mhm.
coached on the highest level here in Finland. What was the competition like in the Women's Football Alliance? I've seen highlights, and I know there's three different levels. But could you tell us a little bit more about like the actual competition on the field that you had out there?
Yeah, on the pro level, which is like the Division 1, it is honestly high. Like there's a lot of and like the players here are bigger. Like they're a lot bigger than in Europe. So like there's some big bodies out here and like it's definitely a lot more competitive. It's a little faster, a lot more physical. So yeah, the competition is like on a high level. Division 2, Division 3, that's a little bit lower as like everywhere. Like obviously a little bit lower, but like the competition here, it's high. Like you're expected to, make some big plays. You're expected to be a lot more physical, and just like the size of the teams, like it's so much bigger here. Like in Europe, there's not that many players per team usually, so you end up playing both ways. Here, we got like 60 people on the roster. Obviously, not everybody's gonna pull up on game days and be there for the whole season, but like it's a lot bigger rosters. Like you have to actually compete to start. You have to compete to, get field time, which is like you don't get that often in Europe. Like there's not as much competition per team. So and you don't have to play both ways until I had to play in the last game, but normally.
But
Yeah.
that actually, because when you were talking about it, actually reminded me because I've been preaching about the here in Finland that the women's team. What about the football IQ? That's my next question because here in
Mhm.
Finland, the women's top league, they run pretty advanced schemes and they have a pretty in-depth knowledge of the game. And obviously, you have some of that going to the States. But when you got there, did you feel like, it was still very high football level, like when it comes to IQ of the players and understanding schemes and where you're supposed to be, making checks on the field, stuff like that?
Yeah, honestly, the football IQ here, like obviously it depends on the player. Some are, more like veterans and some are like complete rookies. So obviously it depends. But like especially the veterans here and even like players who've played for like a few years, like they actually like know football. And that's also like, because I mean, they grew up watching football. So if they were even interested, like they might have not been playing them when they were a kid like me, but like they still been watching football so that they like understand. So like it's easy for us, like we could, you know, we had to make up a whole new defense. Like literally our DC changed my like second week here. So we had to make up a whole new defense within a week, and like we execute it because like everybody like understands, like if I tell you this is your job, you know that's your job and you know why. And you know, so yeah, I would say like the IQ here, it's very high, like especially within like veterans.
And so like there was a lot of exchange of verbiage and terminology. How did that go for you? Like obviously everybody's learned teaches different things, but one thing here out in Finland is explaining the difference between a fade, a vertical, a streak, and a go route. 4 words, very similar. Like, was there a specific type of vernacular they had out there, or was it kind of, you know, people just figured it out?
Yeah, I mean, it depends like on the coach. Like sometimes like the linebacker coach and like the DB coach, they might have like a little bit of a different terminology. But for the most part, like it wasn't like, at least for me, I mean, and I'm used to a lot of like terminology because I've been working with a lot of teams, a lot of coaches. So I'm like, you know, used to that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like every coach has a little bit of their own terminology. So we got kind of used to our new DC. Like he obviously has his way of coaching and his terminology. So you kind of start catching on, okay, this is what he means when he says this, like this is his word for this stuff. So yeah, but you pick on it quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about the Divas organization that you're out there with? Like, how professional was it, you know, playing for that team and being involved in that organization this season?
Oh, it's great. Like it's just like different when it comes to like being here and like being in Europe. Like it's a lot more like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a lot more organized because I do want to say like especially in Finland, like the teams are very organized and stuff, but like just the
But
process of like,
can I cut you off real quick just to explain
yeah.
something that I feel like you would be able to understand also, is that people in Finland that play football in Finland don't understand how good they have it. You were in Spain, and I'm pretty sure you saw the difference between Spain and Finland was,
Let me tell you.
night and day, right? And then you go to,
yeah, and that's the
go
that's the
ahead.
funny part because like going to like Spain from like Finland and Sweden, which where we have, you know, things are good, and then you go to Spain and we're playing on like fields that are like you're not even supposed to be standing on that field because it's so terrible. Like they have not cut it, it's
Like
muddy, it's like,
pastures where the cows live and
yeah, like
stuff.
yeah, like literally like you're not supposed to be even walking on that field. Like, you know, like in Spain, it's a little bit like that sometimes just because it's not as developed there yet. And then coming from Spain to here, where we have a fancy indoor facility, we get to play there, we get to practice there, all of our practices, you know, like it's a super nice facility. Everything is a lot more organized. In Spain, it was like, okay, well, we kind of like as coaches, me and Ida kind of like made up the game day schedule. So we're like, okay, let's meet at this and this time before the game. And here it's like, okay, you need to be here 3 hours before the game. We start doing this 2 hours before the game. You know, like
That's
it's a
awesome.
schedule. Yeah, so it is. I would say it's a little bit more organized, even coming from Finland and Sweden, where things are really good. But obviously, it's still women's football. There's still
Yeah.
its struggles. So it's not like we're in heaven here. Definitely not. Like there's still a lot of struggles. There's a long way to go, playing wise, coaching wise, like organization wise. Like, but that's just women's football. Like,
What about you guys? What about the people that you met there, like your teammates? Do you feel like you made some, you know, like lifelong friends out there, or is it more of a, oh, it was fun, but you know, we'll see what happens?
I've definitely made some like lifelong friends here. Like just coming in, like especially with like women's teams, it can sometimes be hard to like come in and like, you know, start getting along with everybody, like especially when you're like, I don't know, like I was kind of expecting coming from Europe, being like a young European girl coming over to the States, you know, like that they would be a little bit like, okay, who does she think she is, you know, like, But no, everybody was like super welcoming from the start. Like everybody started being super friendly. Like we've been so like comfortable. We've been treated so well here, and I've definitely like made friends that we hang out with. Like we try
Yeah,
to hang out as
I
much as
was I was
possible,
gonna
especially
ask, like,
now.
what's the hangout vibe, because here in Finland, when we had the graduation weekend, all the women's team didn't play because you have so many moms. You got to do your
Yeah.
mom stuff. So, like, what was the vibe on the team with the Divas? Was it more like we hang out with friends and family, or is it like people kind of went and did their own things once they got off the field?
Um, that also depends because I mean, also having like a bigger roster, obviously not everybody is on the same vibe and not everybody is like
Hmm.
the same type of, wavelength. So obviously everybody doesn't, even though everybody gets along. So like at practice, everybody gets
So
along, but
no
it's like maybe
clicks,
not.
none of the clicked up
No,
inside the
like
team. Okay.
obviously football is a passionate sport. There's been some words exchanged, but everybody's getting along. Everybody's, friends. But like obviously, especially like after a loss, like there can be some, words said or on the field when you're frustrated and stuff. But like that also tells how still, even if the people aren't closest friends outside of the field, like how close we are that we can talk to each other. I might snap because I'm frustrated on the field, but that's because, so like we
Yeah.
have that
Because you're
type of
passionate. I can, yeah.
friendship. Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I feel like it comes with the game. Like you are passionate and you can't control how you say certain stuff, like sometimes on the field, but like we are good enough friends because, and we hang out at practice. Like we do talk about like other than football as well. Like, and we do like to hang out. And then obviously there's a little bit different like groups who hang out more outside. So we have like our little group that we hang out more with, but like I could literally hit up anybody and be like, yo, you want to grab lunch, you want to do this and that. Like everybody's, and we try to do a lot like with the whole team. Like we might go out and be like, yo, everybody pull up here, let's
Yeah, but I
do
mean,
time
obviously,
together.
there's only so much time in the day, right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
to, you
exactly.
can
So
only
that's
do
what I'm
so
saying. Like we
much.
we try, but obviously everybody else is like working and have kids and everything. So like you don't get to do too much. And also like we had practices and meetings like every night throughout the week, like during the season. Like we would have practice, next night we would have like a Zoom meeting. So like there's not a lot of free nights. And already for like especially our teammates who have kids, like they're already putting that much time into football. Now they got to spend time with kids. Like they can't just, go top golf with us, like,
Yeah, that makes
but
sense.
definitely been like a great experience, like just being around the team. It's like good energy. And I just love the like American vibe too. You can talk a little shit at practice, we still gonna be friends, but I'm
One
gonna
on
talk my
ones,
shit,
huh? Did y'all go one on ones?
Exactly.
That's
One
when
on
you
ones,
get it.
like, we're competing, we're talking shit, but we're friends at the end of the day. And like that's just like makes us compete so much harder, which is what I haven't seen as much when I've been playing with teams in Europe. Like there's
Hmm.
not as much competition kinda, and like the energy is just a little different. Like
What,
I'm not saying it's bad, but like in Finland, it's more like, oh, hey, good job, like, oh, you'll catch the next one, like nice like that. And here it's a little bit more rough. It's like, oh, if you don't catch that ball, you're gonna sit your ass on the bench, like it's just
yeah,
a different energy. But I definitely I do like it. I do like
that
it here. I feel like
that
also makes me
fearlessness,
compete
I see
harder.
it in your voice. Like there's that. Okay, I'm not afraid to fail. I think if that's
Yeah,
one thing
yeah,
you could take away in Europe, there's that constant. Well, I don't want to lose.
yeah,
Looks like
yeah.
if you get rid of that, you play at a higher level, anyways. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
just yeah, you just gotta want to compete. And that's also like one thing, like there's a lot of players, but that's also like here sometimes, and that's everywhere. That's within women, men. But like there's a lot of players who like would rather not go up against the best players on one-on-ones and stuff because they don't want to fail, But
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
how are you ever gonna get to their level if you don't? Like you have to fail those reps in order to beat them eventually.
If you want to be the best, you
Um,
got to beat the best. That's what it is.
exactly, exactly.
So I wanted to talk about your experience a little bit more. What was what was the most memorable thing that happened to you on the football field this season? Like, what was this one thing that will stay in your memory forever that happened during the season?
Our playoff game, right before the game, we were huddling up, but I was still treating my calf. So I was like on the other side a little bit, and the coaches called me in for the huddle real quick. And we have this thing that we have our captains and we have our leaders, but then we have a game day captain who's always like, who's been like working hard, and their coaches just want to like recognize and, you know, and I was the game day captain of the playoff game, which was like, for me, that was a big deal, just like having come in, not even for the first game of the season, but for the second game of the season. So I came in late. I played like, you know, 5 games, five and a half games technically. So like that was, for me, that was like a personally like big moment, like being called to be game day captain for the playoff game right before the game. That was memorable.
Yeah, it sounds like you really like made an impression on the team there. If they're gonna choose you to be a captain, you know, coming from somewhere else and not having been with the team as long as some of those other players, you definitely made your
Yeah.
input, and that's pretty cool.
My next question would be, what was something that was memorable for you or is still ongoing with your overall experience of being over in the States and playing football? Like outside of the on the field stuff, like what is something that like really just hit home with you and it's really gave you that, oh man, this is it feeling?
Um, Honestly, I couldn't say it's one because I feel like I get a feeling like often, like, you know, like we're like walking around the big city and that you're like, damn, like I live here or something. Or
Yeah.
then, you know, like going to practice, like this is your life now, you know, like it hits often, honestly. And it was the same thing in Spain. Like you're walking on the beach and you're like, shit, I live in Spain now. Like what? Like I used to dream about that as a kid, you know, but you know, it's just like little things. Like it's not like one big thing and you're like, oh, okay, you know, it's just like little things. It's like, no, you know, I'm actually like, I'm living the life that like I've dreamt of living, you know, and like what's been the goal, what's been the dream. And every once in a while, it just like hits you. Like it could be like the smallest thing. Like you just see a big building, you're like, we don't have that in Finland. Like I'm really like far from home right now. And just like hearing, you know, just English everywhere, like no Finnish, you're like, yeah, I'm out of Finland, you know? Be the small moments. It's the small moments.
Without trying to say like, hey, I got to get out of this country. It's an interesting dynamic, right? Because Finland is a
Yeah.
good country to be in, but if you're from here, you know that import life. That's what you're living. That
Yeah.
import life,
Yeah.
the true import life, where you are uprooted from where you're from your home
Hmm.
country, and living in a different culture, playing a sport that you love. That's your vehicle to travel, if one could say.
Hmm.
But getting a little bit more into the football stuff again, because you are a first team All American, which
Hmm.
sounds funny saying an All American being
Right.
Finnish, but but as a first team All American, you know that's what you were selected this year for the Women's Football Alliance. Could you kind of explain what an All American is? Because we obviously going to have women listeners or people who aren't as into American football in America, so they might not know what that is. Could you kind of explain to them what that is and how you feel about being selected for that team?
Yeah, so for this league we call it All American, but like in Finland there's All Stars team. So it's just like they select the, you know, best players. I don't know if they do it purely stat wise or if they do it, you know, watching film or whatever, but they, you know, recognize and honor the best players of that year. And in Finland, they just like name the All Stars team, but here we actually get to play a game, and they have first team, second team, and I think third team, but only first team gets to play the game and get the jerseys and stuff. So I mean, like especially here, like it's just so different compared to like Europe when there's all stars because there's not that many players to pick from. So like it's still like a huge honor, but like here it's just like hit a little different, which I actually didn't even know that there was an All American, and my coach just like sent me congrats, and I was like, on what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm literally laying in bed. Like, I ain't done anything. And he told me, he was like, you were selected to the All-American. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was like coming out today. I didn't even know like how that works. Like if we really have that. But yeah, it's technically like All-Stars. But here it's just like, and once I see they sent me the email of like the invitation, we get to play right before the championship game in Canton, Ohio in the Hall of Fame stadium. So that's like a dope, there's gonna be a dope experience too. But just seeing like when they said that there's like 2,100 players and first team All-American is like the 101st, like the best 100 players out of 2,100 players in the literally best league in the world for women. So like
what
that
does
kind
that
of
make
like,
you like? You're like the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, right? Like I don't know.
I
the
can't
math.
do the math, but it's something like that. Somebody
Yeah.
else did the math and they said that means that you're within less than 5%. So like that was like, and for me, obviously, like also like I didn't even come here for the preseason. Like I had to jump in real quick. Like I missed the first game. I barely played in the second one because I had just come in like 2 days before. I barely knew the playbook. Like I just knew the coverages. I didn't even know what the box is doing. And I ended up having to play in the box. So I'm like lost on the field. Like I'm like, nobody told me what the box is doing because I'm not supposed to be here. I had pulled my groin like literally at the first practice, like right after traveling 24 hours. So I was like not playing in the first game a lot. And then being able to make, because they kind of caught like, they made the All-American team pretty early because I guess they have to get the players like more time to, do the travel stuff and whatever, because we have to travel to Ohio. So they made it pretty early. So I had only played like 3 games or something. So also that like within 3 games, I was able to like get to that level where they want to recognize me like that. Like it was a great feel. It was shocking at first because I didn't even know that they were doing that. And I was like, what do you mean congrats? Like I haven't done anything. But yeah, that
they're
was
watching me. They're watching me. Yes, they're watching me.
Yeah, no, that's definitely great. So we're gonna play that game on July 10th. So I'm excited for that.
So that, I mean, in my opinion, that's more like playing in the Pro Bowl type situation. You know, you're playing in the top league.
Yeah, it is literally the Pro Bowl of like women's football.
And that's super unique, and that's an experience that a lot of people just. I mean, the fact that you already have done that, it puts you miles ahead of a lot of people in their football goals. You know, I know here in Finland and in Europe, a lot of players want to be on the national team, which is great, but again, it goes into those same similar type numbers, on the national team in a sport where there's not as many people trying to play the same sport. When you're playing in the top league of the sport and you're selected as one, that's just a really awesome accomplishment that you've done out there, Nana. That's just really awesome, man.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, it is, and it does feel like great. But obviously, like aiming for the national team, like at that, like a few years back when I was like 16, the goal was to make the national team. Like I didn't just shoot for the stars. Like I didn't
there's
just
levels to this. There's
right.
To
so
this.
Like I wouldn't say that it's like obviously to a level it is a bigger accomplishment, but I feel like I've also been playing football for 15 years. So like obviously I need to be aiming a little higher than like, some of these players in Finland who haven't played as long. So I still think like, just making to the national team and stuff, like those are still big goals and they're big accomplishments. And, like we're all in our own phase, but like it definitely, like especially for me also, like having played for so long, I was supposed to come to the States like way earlier. Something always happened. I was never able to come here until now. Having gone through a lot of injuries, I was out for 2 years before the season, and then making a comeback to not just make it back to the field after 2 years, but being able to get to that level, like it does like make you stop and think, like you really put in that work, like you really did that. So yeah, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
Speaking to that, you having to come back from injury, being delayed from actually going over the States, your whole ordeal, now that, I don't want to say you made it because obviously there's still more to come.
There's a lot more to come.
But do you have that sigh of relief of like, okay, I knew that this was coming. It took a little longer to get here, and now I can, expand even more. Like, do you feel relieved, or does it just fuel the passion, the hunger to do more? Some people like to say, I made it, I'm okay. Some people like to say,
Yeah.
yeah. But tell me how you feel about it. Sorry.
Well, definitely there's been like a few moments where like kind of like the same like damn, I actually live here, like kind of like that. Like it really is like I'm living the life and playing football at the level that I always wanted to, like I've really accomplished like one of my biggest goals, but it doesn't stop at that, like I can still, okay, I'm first team, All American, but I can still be so much better. Like I'm just looking forward to next season, because I didn't even get like a full off season, like this past off season. Like I kind of rushed a little bit back from my surgery, but not too much. I'm like healthy, but like, I didn't get a full off season, started playing in Spain, and then came straight here. So like it's been a lot on my body for sure. And also like I'm still lacking a lot of speed and strength and whatever, like just because I didn't get too much time between my last surgery and having started to play in December in Spain. So like for me, I'm just like already looking forward to next season. Obviously there's still like hopefully more games for this season. Like if I make it to the national team, then we obviously have worlds and stuff. And I mean, who knows if I'll still end up playing somewhere once I get back to Europe. I don't know. I don't want to think about it yet. I'm letting my body rest right now. It's been a long season. But yeah, I mean, obviously you are like satisfied with like what you've done, but it's never like, okay, now I can relax. Like no, like there's still like I'm already, like okay, I'm excited to get back to off-season training because I'm gonna hit that gym, I'm gonna do my sprints, and I'm gonna be even better next year.
That young, passionate fire. Just throwing this out there. I don't have that. I'm glad I don't play football. Y'all do too much. Too much. It's too tough. Anybody out there, if you're doing football, you're doing too much. But
honestly, you got to be a little crazy in the head to play football. That's a fact.
You do. But it's still a great sport, obviously. But to talk a little bit more about women's football in general, you obviously are involved. You've been involved at multiple levels, internationally as well. What are your, just general thoughts on the development of the game, recently, last couple of years, like growing internationally? What are your thoughts on like American football?
We've honestly, like just looking back like a few years ago, like the level has definitely like raised a lot. Like it is like developing a lot, but I just feel like there's just so much potential that we're not able to like unlock yet. And obviously that comes down to, nobody being able to like really play professionally and focus on women's football like completely, because everybody, everybody got kids, everybody got a job and stuff. But there is so much potential, but it also comes down to, like not every team has like great coaches and stuff. So how are you supposed to take it to the next level when you don't even have good coaches and stuff? But I feel like we have developed a lot within these like past year, like especially in Europe, I would say, like especially in Europe, and also like just even 2019 European Championship tournament, like that was so much more competitive than ever before. Like there was Finland, Sweden, and GB. Like we were literally all at the same level. Like anybody could have won those games. It's like, and it didn't used to be like that. So like I love to see the, change. I love to see the competition, the development, and like it's growing. It's definitely growing, but there's still a lot of work to do. And just I feel like the biggest part is just like we need to be seen, which is the hardest part too. But we need to be seen. But there's so much potential to grow and bigger.
It's really hard to be seen in that sport of all sports. I feel like football is one of those sports where the team has to take on the identity more than the players, and it's harder for people to kind of connect with teams without the history. Like, the NFL teams, they have so much history and they're so regionally based. You know, the fan bases are built off of that. So you can have different people coming and going, but it's harder for, you know, a newer sport like women's football where regionally you don't really have the same backing that these sports had. And you can't kind of do like basketball and just use someone's face and say, okay, let's just follow this player. You know, like in women's basketball, people love Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird, even though they're old fossils right now. Not to be mean to them, but they give exposure to the league. There's people like me who don't watch women's basketball, but I can name them because I've seen them.
Right.
You know, it's a lot harder to do that in a sport like American football when some of your more veteran players play offensive line. You know, you don't get to see them. They don't get good photos. It's very hard to get photos of offensive linemen because they're always in something. So it's really hard to build that fan base. And I think that, like you said, exposure is definitely the way to go. And I think things are turning up. But if you were to, you know, if you were in charge, Nana, and you were to say that, hey, this is something that could be a goal for women's football in the next couple of years, what would be a goal that you think that the sport could aspire to?
I mean, obviously the goal is to like get us paid, but that's gonna take a lot more than just a few years because that's obviously like it's not about because you see a lot of like women post like, oh, we deserve that money. You know, we deserve because we put our body on the line the same as men. And we do deserve that money, but like how are you gonna pay money that doesn't exist? Like it's not about the teams not wanting to pay us. The teams would love to pay us. You know, like our coaches, our GMs, like the organization, they would love to pay us, but if there's no money, there's no money. So like we still have to, and that's also what a lot of I feel like women don't understand is that we need to help women's football be seen. You know, and that's also what I try to do personally. Like I be posting my like playing videos and it's not just about oh look I'm like I think I'm great, like no, I'm just posting some clips that I did in this game because I know they can be seen by so many people that didn't even know that women's football exists and now they do, you know. So like we gotta play our part in like, you know, trying to get women's football out there. We can't just, you know, expect to be paid just because we deserve it. Like everybody knows we deserve it. Like we work just as hard as the men do, probably even harder because we have to work so much outside of football too. And, you know, but if the money doesn't exist, it doesn't exist.
Where are we going to get the money from, Nana? Where can we get the money?
Once we, listen, we need media coverage. And that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to do my part in, you know, like when I post a little Instagram reel of a few clips, like somebody's going to see it that didn't know women's football exists. Now they do, you know, now they at least acknowledge that it exists. Some players have wanted to like, you know, come watch our games. Like I've got DMs like, oh, when do you have games? Like, can I come watch? How do I, you know, where do I buy tickets from? Blah, blah. Can I watch the stream? Like I can't get there. I'm far. Can I watch the stream? Like, especially stream links, honestly, like people have been asking a lot recently, like now that I played here in Spain, like they've been asking for the stream links. And it's like, what I love the most is when it's like male football players, like they actually like take the time. And it's not just like, oh, they're just trying to social support, like, oh, let me, you know, watch the stream. But I actually get like messages after game, like, oh yeah, I watched like half the game and like I've seen this and that. Like, you know, like that means a lot. Like it means a lot that you're just like watching women's football. It's not just like, oh, you support me because you think I'm an okay player or, you know, we're friends, but like you're actually watching. Now you're seeing other players. But we really just need that media coverage because once people know that women's football is being played around their area, they're going to start coming to watch the games, you know. But you can't go watch a game if you don't know about the game, right?
What we need
so
is
like
a Netflix series,
yes,
a very
yes.
like a last chance you type series about,
Honestly,
you know, like a WFA team or something, or like what is
no,
the one they
do
do in the NFL? What is it called? The one they
Hard
do
Knocks.
Hard Knocks, yeah, something like that. You know, a similar idea
no.
can be done affordably as well for women's sports. That's something that needs to happen.
We actually had a documentary crew following us within like 2 games this year, but I don't know, like they just started this little project, so I don't think it's going to be anything big yet, but maybe like for next year. But definitely like that would help a lot, like just, you know, producing something like that. But like I don't know, I just like the money comes from making sales. So the money comes
Yeah.
from, you know, selling tickets, the money comes from selling merchandise, you know. So but we need to, as players, like, and I hate it, like obviously, because like for men, like they don't have to do, like, especially if you're in the NFL, if you're in college, like you don't need to do anything on social media. Everybody knows who you are, you're already getting paid, you know. But until we get to that point, like we all, you can't just expect like, oh, I want to be paid because I'm good. Like then help us get the money. You know, like you got to put in the work. And like at this point, like I hope soon we don't need to do that to be recognized, you know, like, and to get that money and stuff. But as of right now, like if you want to get to the point where women can play pro football, you got to do your part in it too. Like we just all got to try to, you know, how women's football be seen, because every time you post something about women's football, somebody that didn't know about women's football sees it, and that could
Exactly.
be one more ticket sold, or, you know, one more person watching the stream. But once you watch a lot of stream, you're going to want to go there eventually or whatever, you know. So I think that's also a big part, like just all of us trying to do our part in getting us to goal where we could all get even just a little bit of money.
Yeah, and people, don't be, if you're listening, don't be cheap with these streams either. Keep trying to tell people. I understand it doesn't have to be free. I don't mind paying €2 for a stream. You know, I don't mind paying 10, $15 for a subscription. Some of us older people, we can afford that. I understand players that are, you know, living from check to check. Obviously, they don't want to pay for that type of stuff. Get them a code, get a couple free codes. But I watch Ruutu here in Finland. I'm subscribed to Italy's channel, to their subscription, because it's $8 a month. I only watch like every other week, but I'm just trying to support the way I can. It's not that expensive to do
and
that.
That's a lot. And like when you think like $8 a month, like it that's not a lot for most of you guys. Like, you know, like it's not too much money from your salary, but that could make a huge difference. Like obviously that $8 is not going to make a huge difference within the league, but when enough people do that, exactly. But you know, but it's just like also like just showing the support, you know, like just come watch one game if you're around the area, like just making the effort to come to one game. Like it's the ticket is they're not that expensive, you know. You're like, you can come there once, even if you don't come to all of them or whatever, but just like showing the support, like just come to, you know, one game and stuff.
Or you could be like me. I like to go to the games because I usually get in the game for free, but I like to buy everything. I like to buy a hat, a shirt. I like to buy some makara sometimes. I don't like to eat it too much, but I'll buy it sometimes. And now when I go to the States, and, you know, it's popcorn, soda, hot dogs, a t-shirt, a hat, whatever. So stuff like that can definitely help boost the sport, but you got to get people there. Like you said, they have to know about it.
Right. Exactly. Like you just got to let them know. Like people just need to know that there is women's football, first of all, because there's still, it's so often when, you know, we start talking with like a random person that we played football and they assume soccer, or they assume like flag football or lingerie football. Like they just do not know that there is women's football. We play, you know, fully clothed, fully equipped, NCAA rules, like, you know. And when you mention that, it's like, no, it's like literally college football. Like we play college rules. They're like, you know, because they just don't know about it. But like once they know about it, and then, you know, like whenever we're out with the team, like whether it's day or night or whatever, like we almost always end up talking about football with like random people. We're like, we're DC Divas. Like yesterday we were at the pool all day and we were like, you know, now everybody at that pool knows we're the DC Divas. Somebody actually knew our like manager. So we're like, okay, so pull up to a game. And she was like, yeah, I gotta call him. And, you know, like next season, like I'm gonna be at your games and stuff. But it's just like people don't know. But once they do, like, I feel like most of the time, like obviously there's some people that when you say you play football, they're like, what do you know about football, you know? But like most people are like, they get so excited. They're like, damn, that's like cool. Like that's so cool. And then also like for me and Ida coming from Sweden, they're like, oh, where are you guys from? Like, are you guys from DC or like, you know, or like West Coast or something? And we're like, no, we from Europe and we just here to play football. And then they're like, damn, like that's like like y'all really play pro like that, like y'all travel across the country, like just or across the ocean just to play football. Like they don't understand how competitive and how like passionate we are about playing football.
Yeah, that's what you got to get across. That's what hopefully some
Mhm,
people hear this podcast and maybe we'll make some clips and get that stuff across because you said it perfectly. Just got to get them
mhm,
to understand. But getting a little bit back to the actual football on the field, um, this summer, women's world championships. I
mhm.
forget all the teams, but a lot of those three European teams that you named, Sweden, Finland, Great Britain, they're going to be there. Australia, who else is there?
Germany,
USA, Germany, that's six. So I'm missing like two.
Canada.
Canada and Mexico. There you go. That's eight.
Yeah.
Those are eight good teams.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on this World Cup, World Championships coming up for American football women's? What do you think about it? What do
Um,
you think is going to happen? How do you feel about it? Are you playing? All of those
um,
questions.
I'm I'm definitely super hyped about it. I'm super excited. We still with the Finnish national team, we don't know who's in the team yet. We're gonna have a camp right before the tournament and we're gonna get selections. So I don't know yet. I had to miss the first camp because I was here, but I've been talking to my position coach in the national team. He's seen all my film, so he's been able to like scout me from here, and then I'm gonna be able to attend the next camp. And then hopefully be in the team. I'm definitely super excited for the Worlds. Like Worlds, they're just like there's just always fun, and just like being able to bring in like especially this year we got 8 teams, like 8 different countries coming in. Like that's a lot of players, and like just being able to bring all of us together, to
Mhm.
meet each other. Like I bet just because of Worlds a lot of these players are going to start, like you're going to make a connection. Like I'm going to, meet somebody from Australia. I might go to Australia next year,
Yeah.
like something like, like I feel like that always helps so much when people start connecting like that because it creates so much more opportunities. Also, like within like the national team, obviously, like the coaches, like if we're playing Canada, we can see who's good from Canada, and that's going to want us to bring them over here. And, so the coaches are like scouting at the same time. It's just like the perfect opportunity to really like, create opportunities and to open doors and to get those connections and get yourself out there. If you do great, obviously that's the highest level women's football there is. And also like having 8 teams now this year, like the competition is high. Like obviously there's teams like USA, like, they're a lot better than everybody else. So like I want to say I'd be super hyped to play USA just because also now I'm playing against my teammates. I'm playing against all the players that I played against, this whole season. And here it's like, okay, we're in club teams. So like, but I know I can face y'all. There's still some players like I like, like it's gonna be like I'm looking forward to it, but like it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. Um, but obviously with the national team, like it's the best of the best, and not just first team All American, one league, but the whole country leagues as well, where they have like great ballers. So expectations is that USA is definitely gonna be up there, but I want to like I'm not gonna say okay, USA is gonna take it all. Like I'm not going into like if I'm in the team, I'm going there to beat USA. Like I don't care how unrealistic that sounds to other people. I'm not going there to lose to nobody, even though I know they're so much better. And last time we played USA, they beat us like 7-0 or something like that. So like I mean, it's a long way to go, but like I'm gonna always aim for that. Like I'm not going to Worlds to compete for the third spot or whatever. Like I'm going to Worlds to compete for the first spot. You know,
That's the
and
way it
and
should
I feel
be.
like yeah, exactly. But I feel like there's been such like everybody's just like okay, well, as long as we make it to third, because that's kind of been the competition. Like it's always been USA's first, Canada's second, and the rest of the teams are competing for the third spot. you know, and that's kind of like players are satisfied. And that's also like with a lot of clubs, like there's teams like here in WFA, it's Boston. Like they've been undefeated for years, you know, like they're really hard to beat. In Spain, there was a team, Black Demons, that had been undefeated for years. And it's just like some players' mindset is just like they're just satisfied if we, you know, make it through without injuries and stuff. Like, no, I'm still going there to win. And even sometimes the player might be like, okay, like I'm going there to win, but once we lose, it's like, hey, but we did a great job. Like, no, we still lost. Like, we still lost. Like, I don't care who they are, they're still human beings, right? Like, they're still in this league. If they were so much better than us, they would not be playing in our league, right? Like, I just like that thought will just not sit right with me. Like, I'm not going nowhere thinking that I'm gonna be satisfied with this and that. I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win, you know? So so that's definitely the goal. But the goal first is obviously to make the team. But then after that, I don't care who we face. Like, I'm going on that field to win. And I do think within the national team, like in Finland, we have a lot of competitive individuals. So so I don't doubt that it's gonna be the mindset within the team.
History says Finland is one of the strongest teams in Europe. Sure, I think y'all won the EU.
Yeah, we're current European champions, but it was tight. So it's not even oh, we're way by far, you know, best in Europe. Like, no, that it was tight. So it's definitely
I would
like
still
there's
like
no
to
easy
put
games.
out there. I would still like to put out there that I've been watching the women's Finland league the last year and a half ish, and the type of football played is real football. So I think a lot of other leagues, and I can't speak on Sweden. Actually, Sweden does okay too. Can't speak on Germany. I've never seen them play. Great Britain, I've seen play.
Yeah.
But Finland puts up a high IQ level of football. That's what really interests me, is understanding the differences, you know, the small little things that players do. That's usually the biggest takeaway from the USA playing against for other countries, is that they have all that like football savvy, is what we like to call it. They have that football savvy, and the gap is so wide if they end up blowing teams out. I don't think it'll be that different. I don't like you said, you've played against some of these players. It kind of reminds us of the whole like Power 5 college football, where you have a team that has just as good athletes, but maybe they have more. So over time of 4 quarters, things get a little bit further apart than you want them to be. But that doesn't mean you can't pound for pound go for them. And if you, you know, there's a lot of luck involved in football. So if you get the right things to go your way, upsets are possible. That's why it's a sport we love. Any given Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday now, right? Anything can happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like we do have that talent, because like right now, like I'm not the only Finnish player playing here right now. Like we got 2 in Boston, we got 1 in Minnesota, all like players who have been playing in the national team. And it's like when we played against Boston, like I'm like, honestly, like my worst, like I'm never like scared to play anybody. I'm never like, oh, I don't want to like play against her because she's good. But the one that I'm like most focused on is a Finnish running back, right? So I'm like, but she's gonna be on my team. Like if we're both in the team, that's gonna be my teammate, right? So now I have to face the American running backs, but I was most worried about a Finnish running back. So, you know, like we have that talent. And like when you play here, like obviously it's a club team, so like half the team is like obviously not like veterans and stuff. The national team is at a way higher level, but like individually you've been playing against those best players your whole season, you know, and I've got to play with a lot of them as well. Like we have national team players, like our running back and one of our receivers, like they're in the national team, and there's like a few others, but I'm like excited because I'm like, damn, they've been doing good this season. Now I gotta face them. You know, I'm still excited about it because I'm always take up the challenge.
But you know what you're going to get. That's what's helpful.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
Right?
But it's also like I've been doing one-on-ones with them at practice. You know, so like And that's the best players. Like, it's not like, I feel like it's just so much like mental when it comes to playing Team USA. And that's not just for Finland, like it's for everybody. Like there's just like that, like there's something mental about it, because you have those individuals as well, and they're just a bunch of individuals as well, who you've already played against, like, but it's just like something about it being USA, the country of football. Like obviously they are faster and they are stronger and their IQ is higher than like a lot of other national teams, but at the end of the day, a lot of our Finnish players could play here, you know? Like I'm not, like you can still like, and it's individuals, like you can do one-on-ones with them and stuff. Like they're still human beings. And now us being like four in the top league here this year, and there's obviously been players before too, but that like shows that we do have that talent. And we like, Tutti was like one of the best running backs in the league and stuff, like it shows that
Yeah,
we
she's
do have
also
that
All
talent.
American. Yeah, Tutti was
Yeah,
also
exactly. Yeah,
All-American.
she's also first team All American, and Jonna Tuovinen is the second team All American, and she's also like leading tackler in her team and whatever. So like it shows we do have that talent, like we have players who can come here and actually put up numbers. Like it's not just that we came here, but we came here and we put up numbers. Like
Yeah.
that's also another thing. Like exactly, like but if we're able to do that, there's a whole bunch of other players in Finland who could do that as well. They just haven't had the opportunity, or don't want to move around or whatever, but like their level is there, like they
The
could
World
be here.
Championships is the opportunity, right? Have you
Exactly.
have you seen much like media coverage on this World Championships coming up? I haven't seen as much as I would like, but I don't know if maybe there's more out there. Obviously, you're
Honestly,
in women's football. Maybe you've seen more of it than I have.
honestly, I can't say I've seen a lot. I've seen, because obviously I follow the Finnish Federation and stuff, so I see that. But then, like outside of the few posts that they've made about it, it's mostly been I've seen my teammates post their GoFundMe, because they obviously need a lot more help financially because they have to travel all the way from USA. So that's like the most I've seen, like, is see them post that on their Facebook, asking for financial help and whatever. But like that's what I'm saying about the media coverage. Like, how are we expecting people to come watch the Worlds when I barely seen it post, and I follow a whole bunch of football stuff? Like I'm always like, I always know what's going on in football, right?
Yeah.
But for me to not having been seen that much, like if I wasn't playing right now and aiming for the Worlds, and I didn't know when the camps are, because obviously like I get the emails about when the camps are, blah blah blah, because I'm an insider. But like if I wasn't playing this year and I wasn't planning on even trying to play in the team, I probably wouldn't really know about the Worlds like that. So we do need to, and I think they'll probably start posting more about it in a little bit, but like we need to do it now, because I feel like there's a lot of people from the other countries who would come watch, like especially like Germany and Sweden and stuff that's kind of close. Like if they actually know exactly when the games are played, blah blah blah, like they would probably travel. But if we start posting that stuff like right before the tournament, like they're not gonna travel, like, oh, let me get flights for tomorrow. So but that's what I'm talking about, the media coverage. Like we can't expect to make a lot of ticket sales in the Worlds if we don't start like putting it out there more.
Yeah, because the Worlds are what, in August, the first week of August.
Yeah, we start
that's like
30th
a month
of July.
That's like a month.
Yeah, that's a month, literally.
So yeah, there should be stuff going out now.
Yeah.
People need to know about this. We'll try to get some stuff out from the ASF podcast, and we'll try to put out what we can as well. But we're limited as well in our resources. But we'll try to put something out and definitely help support that. That's something that needs to be done. Is when Finland's hosting a huge event like this could be different. And personally that if people see these games, people in the United States, especially, they'll start watching the Finnish league just to see if it's like what they
Right.
saw.
Right.
AFF, our podcast, you know, we keep up with our numbers and all that. We have a loyal fan base in the States because of, you know, imports who've heard our podcast while they're here and they go home. But they keep following us because they like it. That's exactly what these championships could be. People could like what they see and then they're going to follow. And Finland is a fortunate country that, you know, the women's league is on YouTube. There's a streaming service. You can see the games online. We need to talk to AFI about taking some of those streams too. Yeah, it's a really good stream. So easily, hopefully, over the World Games, they're promoting that stream as well, so people know to go to that. But we'll see how that all goes. But
also, that's like.
Oh, go ahead.
But
go ahead.
Also, like in Finland, like Finland as a country, we don't get to host a lot of worlds, like within any sport. So like for us to be able to host like women's football worlds, like we need to get it out there for like not just football people, because there would be a lot of people like if they, you know, like if you hear that there's worlds, like I don't care what sport it is, if it's worlds, like I'm trying to be there. Like I'm just like, you know, like interested in everything kind of like that. So I feel like if we just get it out there, like, you know, more in the news or hang out banners or whatever, you know, like we just need to get it out there for the people who don't follow the football pages, because they might come to Worlds for like one game, then they're like, damn, well, I want to see the next one too. And then all of a sudden they start looking like, oh wait, this player is from like a Helsinki team. Well, I live in Helsinki, like shit, like maybe I should like reach out. Like, you know, that's how we get players. That's how we get players. So like we really need to get it out there.
Like August is good weather. It's not too hot, but it's also not really, really cold. The sun is out. It's that time of the year that people like to be outside. Well, we have a football game. Good activity. Come on outside.
Right. Yeah. That's perfect. Like for me, like a good summer night, watching a sport with friends, having a little food, maybe like drinks or something, like that's perfect. Like we just need to get it out there, because that's really how we're gonna also like develop women's football, because we do need new players too. And we need, you know, like younger players. We need women to, you know, start from an earlier age, because that also makes a big difference whether you start when you're 30 or if you start when you're like 15. So like we really need to just attract more players. And then, because, you know, if we now recruit a bunch of, you know, younger players within a few years, the national team is going to be a whole lot different, you know. So yeah, we really need to get it out there for more than just the football community.
Yes, that's for sure. But let's wrap this up. Don't take too much of your time. We've been talking, and it's always a pleasure, you know it. But last thing I really wanted to ask you was, what's next for you? Like, what do you have on deck outside of, you know, we know you have the All-Stars game, the All-American game, then maybe the World, depending on selection, all that. But after that, you know, you have an off season finally. What can we expect, or what are your goals for this next season?
Honestly, I don't know what's my next move yet. Right now, you know, enjoying my last weeks here, you know, and then playing the All-American, then, you know, getting back to training, hopefully make the Worlds, play the Worlds. After that, like, I don't even know, like I have teams that would like for me to play, and I'm like, part of me wants to still play football. Part of me is like, I started playing football in December. Yeah, December technically, but January really. So I'm like, part of like, maybe I shouldn't. So I really don't know what I'm like. I'm probably still gonna be, you know, you can't get me out of football, that's for sure. So like I might be, you know, playing coaching, or I might just take a complete break. I don't know. But the plan definitely is to eventually then get to off season. And then honestly, I don't even know what I'm gonna do during the off season. I have not been worried about that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I feel like things always fall the way they're, you know, supposed to. So I'm just taking it easy and see what happens. And I feel like, you know, the Worlds and everything is gonna open a lot of new doors and stuff. So I'm just taking it easy and day by day and see see how my body's feeling, see how, things like once I get back home, it's been 9 months. So, gotta see how things are at home. Yeah. So honestly, I don't know what's my next move, but we'll see. We'll figure that out within the next few weeks, a month, something.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely be watching, Nana. We'll be keeping up with you. Appreciate you coming on AFF podcast.
Thank you
Really
for
good
having
to have
me.
this. You're welcome. It's really good to have a real interview. Midsummer has messed up our schedule, so this might be the highlight of the show this week. So we really appreciate you coming on, and good luck to you at the All-American game. And of course, good luck to you at Worlds, and we'll see you in Finland later this summer.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll catch you.
American football in Finland.